But the thing that really got them out in the streets was the cutback of federal bureaucrats' jobs, including today at the DOE. They're very upset about USAID. Now, magazines like Politico are seeing their subscriptions from these federal government offices, pulled because the government doesn't want to pay taxpayer dollars for these things. Now they're pissed.
Yeah, it was surprised. I would love to say that I wasn't surprised, that I saw it coming, but I really was surprised. I expected much more on the stuff that you just mentioned, especially the immigration stuff. But it's the firing of the federal workers, and I think that they're correct. I think that what they're realizing, or what I'm realizing, is that Elon and Trump, or Trump through Elon, is now over the actual target, which is, I think we had this idea that the deep state, which is this scary kind of conspiracy sounding thing, was like the smoking man from the X-Files, like this guy in the shadows who was really competent in pulling the strings. But it actually is like this gender librarian who works in the federal government, and there are thousands of them, and they just, best case scenario, it's a jobs program and they don't do much of anything. But worst case scenario, there's a small minority who are totally radical, and they're opposed to any time a Republican gets in office. They're opposed to everything they do, and they get in the way and they muck up the gears. And you wonder, like, we voted them in to do these things. Why aren't they doing anything? And it's because of this. It's because I think we do have a debate. It's like, what I mean by that is an unelected class of bureaucrats who are controlling the government. And now we're being told that dismantling that is akin to anti-democracy. And it's like, actually, President Trump was elected, and this is what he was elected for.
Yes, there is something. I don't know if you've seen this. At the World Economic Forum, USAID founder pushes for global advertising exclusively to remove some people, platforms, because of this info. At the World Economic Forum, this info makes money. We need to follow that money. We need to work with the global advertising industry because a lot of those dollars got to pretty bad content.
Disinformation makes money, and that's one of the, we need to follow that money, and we need to work with in particularly the global advertising industry, that a lot of those dollars go to pretty bad content. And so you can work really hard on exclusion lists or inclusion lists to sort of really try to focus ad dollars and challenge the global advertising industry all around the world to focus their ad dollars towards the good news and information, the accurate and relevant news and information.
Yes, you have seen what she was advocating. Shockingly, this is going on. Now you might be wondering what actually triggered Doge, Elon Musk, to look into all what they were doing. When you take a look at this video, I'm about to show you, Jensen, how USD got to the top of the Doge list is that Trump decided to pause foreign aid for 90 days. Reasonable enough, a couple of days later, the White House said this U.S. heavy leadership was trying to circumvent this executive order that alerted the Doge team, and Elon Musk confirmed this on X. He said all Doge did was check to see which federal agency was violating Trump's orders the most, and that turned out to be USAID. So that became our focus. So you can see what they were struggling to do when Trump paused everything for 90 days.
The people who come first, like, they're probably the ones who are in on the biggest grift because, hey, I figured out how to grift this money. How USAID got to the top of the Doge list, I think, is one of the most interesting aspects of this story. So if you remember, on January 21st, Trump decided he would do a bunch of executive orders, right? And one of them was to pause foreign aid for 90 days. Okay, this seems reasonable. We got to take care of our country. That was part of his mandate for becoming the 47th president of the United States. So a couple of days later, the White House said, hey, this USAID leadership is trying to circumvent the executive order. In other words, they're just going to keep paying people even though the executive order came out. That alerted the Doge team. So Elon confirmed this on X. He said, quote, all Doge did was check to see which federal organizations were violating the president's executive orders the most. Turned out to be USAID, so that became our focus. And according to NBC, security officials at USAID tried to prevent Doge from even getting into the building or accessing the systems. To your point, Antonio, the person probably who's got the most to hide is the one who's going to fight the most. Over the weekend, Doge gained access to USAID, and then people started tweeting out all of this crazy spend and things that any American who looks at it and says, wait a second, if we haven't fixed the goddamn water in Flint, Michigan, why are we sending money to Galway or in Ireland to do a DEI musical? This makes no sense. And that's, I think, the key piece of this, Antonio, is can you win the hearts and minds of Americans? Because some of this stuff, I don't know if it's legal or it's not legal or it's against protocol or it is protocol. We're going to find out. There's been tons of legal cases and lawsuits that have been filed. But to your point, this is how Elon found out about USAID.
Look, I think this is absolutely America first. It's needed policy, and it's what people have been asking for years. And honestly, politicians have talked about doing this for a very long time. The only difference is they never do it. You've had presidents from both parties say, I'm going to make the government smaller. I'm going to go in and look at the bureaucracy and make it more efficient. I'm going to trim where I can, trim the fat. No one ever does it. Reports are written, committees meet, people have phone calls, press conferences are held, and nothing ever happens except the government gets larger and larger. Lo and behold, Donald Trump shows up and throws out the sledgehammer, the instrument of destruction, Elon Musk, to actually do it and do it at lightning speed. This is precisely what voters have been demanding. Is he going to break a few eggs along the way? That's fine. They'll have plenty of political latitude to do it because the action is what's wanted by the American people. Well, I think certainly Republicans are going to support what effectively amounts to the most aggressive and needed government audit we've ever had, no matter what agency it is. So, yes, I think the party is by and large going to support this. And I think the Pentagon is an agency that absolutely should be looked at like any other. I don't want Elon Musk or anyone else going in and saying we need to shrink the size of our military or somehow reduce our national capacity to wage war or defend the nation. But you can't look at a bureaucracy this size and tell me that there is not waste, fraud, and abuse that could be ferreted out if somebody like Elon Musk and his team were willing to go in and do it. Of course they're going to find things. They'll find things in every single agency. And I think the American people are asking for that. And I have no doubt that you could get rid of some waste, fraud, and abuse in the Pentagon and have no impact on our national security whatsoever. And in fact, maybe you might enhance our national security by getting rid of some duplicative bureaucracy or some things where money's being spent on things it shouldn't be spent on, maybe redirect those things to more mission-critical items.
Yes, in as much as these people sort of frame up things, like today, I saw Leticia James, I'm suing Elon Musk. In fact, the Trump administration for struggling to invade, go into our private data, things like that. Since Trump took office, this lady has filed about 5-6 lawsuits already. I'm wondering, before 4 years, she will be breaking a record about maybe 100 lawsuits. Be Maher, there is so much government waste for Doge to cut. I read the Justice Department Environmental Division, they want to cut, and there is also the EPA's Environmental Justice Office. So the EPA has a justice office, and the Justice Department has an environmental office. Be in support of what Elon Musk is doing. There is no doubt about it.
There is so much to cut, but there's a way to do it. For example, I read the Justice Department's Environmental Division. They want to cut. And there's also the EPA's Environmental Justice Office. So the EPA has a justice office, and the Justice Department has an environmental office. How about everybody just do their own job?
To Vance now, you have this Doge employee whose stated position is that Indians should feel hated in America. He's going to be rehired, and then Vance gets to go home to his Indian American wife and his Indian American kids and look them in the eyes and say that a guy who wants you to feel uncomfortable in your own country now has a top job again in the government thanks to me. Like, Vance had a chance to defend his own family, and he opted instead to defend the Indian-hating bigot instead. Like, Chris, where are the balls on these Republican men? Trump calls Ted Cruz's wife ugly. Ted Cruz becomes Trump's best friend. Elon wants the Doge kid who hates Indians back, and Vance does his bidding while his...
You can cry more for all I care. I'm going to do a segment about this guy so you can understand fully what happened. Yes, if you see videos after this clip, that is for the algorithm. So please, you can even stop here.
Racism is over.
Other 5-alarm fire, reversal of policy.
Yeah, it's intense, probably as intense as I've experienced during my time here in Washington, D.C.
The Democratic Party have lied to us about
everything. You know, what's fascinating right now is we're getting a chance to see what happens when you take a business approach to the government.
Are out there pretending to be outraged about the long list of crap that this administration is cutting, federal waste and funding.
The thing that they're most concerned about is Doge engineers with access to treasury systems. Can you clarify, do the Doge engineers have read-only access in these systems, so they are not allowed to write new code?
No.
They are not, okay.
No.
USAID has gotten a lot of attention.
Those payments now.
That says it's only been 2 weeks, okay?
Earn money and they want their tax dollars to look like it's helping the country.
And also, I got to say,
don't you agree?
I totally agree.
Essential.
Early on, immediately.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10.
To her.
No. The EU does not treat the U.S. fairly on trade and that he has some big complaints. Is that true?
Right? And it doesn't mean that we should sit and pretend that it's suddenly okay, that this new presidency is just going to keep on keeping on. That is not the case. And because, final point for me, 1.5 years is because...
This is the United States.
You're talking about a man who didn't become the president of the United States because of merit.
This lady is not unstopped.
Where awful things have happened. So
and sparks move things. And it doesn't matter how much water you have.
Future president and his gag
are somebody in policy.
The city of the Pacific Palisades is burning. And, I flew here last night. I was on a plane.
You getting water to areas that need...
He's been trained his whole life to do.
What do we do?
All right, right now you're looking
History, remember it.
as a country about January.
And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know.
Jordan.
The 5 tenants of
Palisades Village right here. This is the town center of sorts.
And he did this little dance.
Josh Green, the governor of down in Hawaii.
And then we watch news or talk.
Now look, I have a lot of...
So please.
I was being lazy on the couch like Friday night.